Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Tuesday, August 16th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Notre Dame game is in 18 days, the game against Michigan in 102 days. We are also getting very close to the launch of the full site at BuckeyeHuddle.com. The plan is to officially launch that on Wednesday this week, and suffice to say, we are all very, very excited to get that going. So block out some time on Wednesday. We have some fun stuff planned, including a live YouTube show, a ton of chats, other content on the new website, and much more. So here's a little pro tip. Just try to get a little ahead on work today so then you can kind of put it on cruise control at the office on Wednesday and be a part of the launch of BuckeyeHuddle.com. All right. We also have a new sponsor for the podcast, HomefieldApparel.com. They make an incredible assortment of t-shirts, sweatshirts, and much more with cool vintage logos. And now, after years of waiting and years of looking at their collections for all sorts of other schools and thinking, I wonder why they haven't done Ohio State yet. Good news, friends. They're about to launch their Ohio State collection. That will happen this Saturday in an event they call Big New Saturday. Last weekend they launched their Penn State collection, and it set a brand new sales record for the first day sales, beating the old record holders from Florida. Maybe it just doesn't mean more down south after all. Who knows? Who's to say? And just here's my guess. Knowing Ohio State fans as I do, I think there's a pretty good chance that Ohio State will break that record again this week. The Ohio State collection launches Saturday at noon at HomefieldApparel.com. I get a look at one of the early sneak peek designs. It is fantastic. One of those vintage Brutus logos you just don't see anymore. We will be talking about it a bunch this week, but make sure you use the promo code Buckeye Weekly, all one word, Buckeye Weekly, and you will save 15% on your first order. Let me tell you, I am going to be loading up on stuff this week. Make sure you check out their full collection. The Ohio State stuff I'm sure will be great, but I'm going to be diving into the Colorado and Hawaii and St. Peter's collections, all of my weird college football and college sports stuff. Probably much more, so check out HomefieldApparel.com and use the promo code Buckeye Weekly, all one word, BuckeyWeekly, to save 15% on your first order, and also let them know that we would be a good podcast to continue to sponsor moving forward. We would really appreciate that. We're also going to be getting into the height of fall camp season this week. Kevin Noon, Tony Gerderman, and I were at the Woody on Monday to talk to the tight ends and offensive coordinator Kevin Wilson. You can find a brand new episode of the Buckeye Weekly podcast all about that, wherever you're listening to this. We will be back out there on Tuesday to talk to Larry Johnson and the defensive lineman. That's a group that could be a very big part of this year's team, and there should be a lot of stuff to talk about coming out of that. Now, all right, that's it. On to today's show. We are talking about recruiting. The BuckeyeHuddle.com staff spans sea to shining sea, which means we're able to cover events in person that other sites can't. So one of the things that we covered this weekend was the commitment of Jayden Bonsu. He is a safety out of New Jersey who committed to the Buckeyes over the weekend. Our Alex Gleitman was there to cover it in person. So he joins me now. Alex, thanks for being here.
Tom, always a pleasure, and, really excited for the launch of the site this week. We have been waiting, you and I know, at least impatiently for this, so I'm really excited and happy to be here as always.
Yeah, this has been something we've been talking about and waiting on for a little while. Can't wait to get going, and yes, those countdown numbers at the beginning of the show are starting to get pretty small, so what a perfect time to launch right as the season's getting started. So let's talk a little bit about Jayden Bonsu. You were there in person. You got to talk to him after the commitment, got to see him make that decision in person. What sold him on Ohio State? Because he's someone who, we've talked about a bunch of times, and it looked like he might be headed elsewhere for a while. So what ended up selling him on Ohio State?
Yeah, at the end of the day, I just think it was the persistent effort of Perry Eliano, but also Ryan Day. I mean, Jim Knowles was certainly involved in that as well as the defensive coordinator. But, I think Ohio State, a lot of people say, well, they missed on Caleb Downs, and that's why they started, turning the heat up on Jayden Bonsu. No, this is a kid that they've wanted from the get-go. I mean, I remember, because he's in my neck of the woods here at St. Peter's Prep in Jersey City, New Jersey, same high school they got Cody Simon out of. I remember asking someone at Ohio State about a year ago when they offered if Jayden Bonsu was to take it, and they said, absolutely. It wasn't that long ago because Jim Knowles had come on board, and what I was basically told, so, we're 7-8 months back now at this point, and what I was told was he just fits what they're looking to do so perfectly. And I think, for a while it did look like Miami was going to be the team to beat after Ohio State had the edge early. And I think, I don't want to say Ohio State dropped the ball or anything like that, but I just think kind of hearing those rumors maybe about Miami, seeing a commitment date originally scheduled for July 20th, it kind of put their butts in gear a little bit, and they turned up the pressure, and they just got on Jayden, got on his family, got him on the phone as much as they possibly could, Thought he had a great official visit the June 17th weekend, which, by the way, had as many visitors as the following weekend, that June 24th visit. So mark one down for a big weekend with a lot of visitors for Ohio State. And, ever since then, they really pushed really, really hard. Convinced Jayden to push his decision back from that July 20th date. A lot of people thought he was just going to film a commitment to Miami or something like that, but kept waiting. Finally, he came out with a new date, which was this past Sunday, August 14th. And what do you know? It was for Ohio State. And again, just the relationship with Perry Eliano, Ryan Day, the fit in the defense, in Jim Knowles' scheme. He just felt it was the best opportunity for him to achieve his goals of one day playing in the NFL.
Well, you mentioned his fit in the Ohio State defense. Where does he fit? Because there are 3 safety spots. We know he's going to be at one of them, but which of the 3 safety spots are they envisioning him potentially playing at the next level?
Yeah, I mean, look, I envision him kind of in this Ronnie Hickman role, I guess, if you will. I mean, Rocket was a guy who out of high school everyone thought was going to move down to linebacker because they recruited him right after Darren Lee basically had his run at Ohio State, was when Ronnie Hickman came in. And a lot of people thought he was just going to put on weight, slide down to linebacker, and be this kind of in-the-box hybrid linebacker safety that's more of a linebacker in today's game. And Rocket obviously entering potentially his last year at Ohio State. He might go one more, but he's still a safety, right? And he's playing in this new safety role in Jim Knowles' defense where he's going to be in coverage, but he's also going to come up in the box and he's going to make plays. And I see that in Jaden Bonsu's future. I mean, you turn on his film and, I mean, he could lay the wood. There's no doubt about that. But he runs really well and he could cover really well. And I think, he's not that nickel position that Tanner McAllister's playing. He's not, that Josh Proctor position. I don't see him. I mean, I think him and Josh probably have a lot of similarities in their game, but I think, when you think about Ronnie Hickman, you think about Court Williams, you think about maybe a Sonny Styles. I think that's the type of player that Jayden Bonsu can be in this defense.
We talked on yesterday's show with Kevin Noon about, the fact that corner is sort of a concern right now because they've only got 6 guys on scholarship, and that's part of the reason they are bringing in a very big defensive back class this year. He is obviously part of that. So can you just kind of reset for people, what do they have in terms of defensive backs in the 2023 class? And what do they potentially still need? Because, you look at the numbers right now and it's like, well, certainly they must be done. It's like, no, not necessarily. They may be bringing in even more than they have already.
Yeah, I think at cornerback, you got to look at what they might be losing over the next 2 years, and you got to restock that room. And they have 3 guys in the class, and I think they feel good about those guys sticking. Dijon Johnson left the class. They obviously wanted 4 at one point if it's the right 4. They're not going to reach. I was told it's like they are not going to just reach and take a player just to take a player. So you can forget that scenario, but I think they are going to watch a lot of guys closely over the first somewhere between 2 and 4 games of their senior seasons. I think they're going to, I know right now it's not looking like Dijon Johnson's going to end up in the class, but as quickly as that thing almost turned last week, it could turn again. And so I wouldn't be completely shocked if Dijon Johnson ended up signing with Ohio State down the road. I'm not saying it's likely at this point, but things can change very quickly. I think that's where he wants to be. I think Ohio State would love to have him. He would qualify as one of the, cornerbacks who they feel good about in this class, but there's some other guys that they're going to bring in for visits. They're going to evaluate very closely. And I think if they could get the right 4 cornerbacks, they would take the right 4 cornerbacks. And I think that also goes for safety, right? They have 3 safeties committed. I think if they could flip Caleb Downs, they'd obviously take him in 2 seconds. I also think they're going to be looking at Damon Fagan very, very, very closely over his first 2 to 4 games down at American Heritage, because if they like what they see there, I wouldn't be surprised to see an offer for a guy that's been linked very closely to Ohio State but is currently committed to North Carolina State.
Well, Dijon Johnson is one of those guys who's kind of in that recruiting drama zone right now where maybe he will and maybe he won't. Someone else who's in that zone right now is Keon Keeley. He is a 2023 defensive end. He's currently committed to Notre Dame, but it doesn't sound like he's necessarily 110% committed, as they say in their recruiting graphics, shutting things down. He may be kind of keeping an eye on things, and Ohio State may be one of those places he's kind of at least thinking about. Where do things stand with him right now? Is he someone who is on immediate flip watch? Is he someone who is, just kind of keep an eye on him right now? Like, where does he stand right now?
Yeah, I think you got to be watching Keon Keeley very closely. I originally reported after his late March visit that it wasn't definite, but that the loose plan was for him to take an official visit to Ohio State the weekend of September 3rd for the game against Notre Dame, where he's currently committed. We are now, Tom, I forget how many days you said away from that game, but I think that we are heading toward that happening as of now. I mean, nothing, I don't have confirmation of this, but I do think that Ohio State is in good position to get a visit that weekend, and if not that weekend, another weekend from Keon Keeley. Alabama just got him on campus for the second time this year for their barbecue in late July. I think that they would probably expect him back for a game, for an official visit. And then, Notre Dame's obviously in the mix. That's where he's committed. There's some rumors that Marcus Freeman does not like his current committed players taking official visits elsewhere. Unofficial visits are acceptable. I don't really know why. What's the difference? You could stay for, 72 hours times 2. I mean, you could stay for 144 hours if you want on an unofficial visit, but you can only stay for 48 on an official. The one difference being there's a time limit, and they could pay for all your expenses there. So I don't really get that policy, but anyway, that's supposedly the policy. So if Keon Keeley goes ahead and does take an official visit to Ohio State, does Notre Dame hold up on their word and not honor his commitment anymore? I think regardless, this is a commitment that's hanging on a thread for Notre Dame, and I think that's great for Ohio State. Now, I would probably have Alabama positioned second right now, right behind Notre Dame in this recruitment. But I do think Ohio State has a really good shot if they can get him on campus one more time. So let's keep our eyes and ears peeled for that happening. But if they could do that, I mean, this is a kid who can arguably be ranked as the number one player in the country at a position of need, in my opinion, at defensive end.
Yeah, that Notre Dame game, which is exactly 18 days away, in case you were keeping score at home. That is going to be, if he comes that weekend, first of all, probably a little awkward with Marcus Freeman standing on the other sideline. But second of all, I mean, that is shaping up to be one of the biggest recruiting weekends in memory. I mean, and it makes sense. I mean, this is a opening weekend, Labor Day weekend, long holiday weekend, prime time game. In Ohio State, sometimes you get those noon kickoffs and it kind of kills the atmosphere on the stadium. I don't think that is going to be an issue with a primetime kickoff against Notre Dame in week 1. There are some monster names coming that weekend. You have been sort of tracking the visits for that Notre Dame game at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Who are some of the big names who are potentially visiting that weekend? I'm sure we're going to talk about this a lot more when we get a little closer, but just, can you hit a couple of the highlights of names that people might want to know who are coming in for that Notre Dame weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably not even scratching the surface, and I've got about somewhere between 30 and 40 names already on the list. And just looking down, I mean, look, there's going to be a lot of commitments there. You got a lot of the Ohio State current commitments, so let's not count them for now. I mean, I think it's always big to get those guys on campus, but we mentioned Keon Keeley. Obviously, that's someone that we're watching very closely. Damon Wilson, another Floridian defensive end, potential 5-star type of player. Again, a position of need, defensive end. I think he's supposed to visit that weekend, so let's see if he shows up. Those are the two big 2023 guys that I have on official visits. We'll see if anyone else kind of sneaks into that picture. And then 2024, I'll mention him. He's a commit, but Dylan Raiola supposed to be on campus. Always good to get the number one player in the class on campus, whether he's committed or not, especially when he's committed. Jeremiah Smith, one of the top wide receivers in the country for that class, out of that South Florida Express group. He's supposed to be on campus. One of their top tight end targets from the state of Illinois, Christian Bentoncourt, who was at a camp that you guys were at earlier this year and earned an offer from Ohio State. He will be there. Offensive lineman Ian Moore, defensive lineman King Joseph Edwards, defensive lineman Nigel Smith, linebackers Sammy Brown, Kingston Villamuasa, and Anthony Specca and Gabriel Williams. All four of those guys at linebacker are big-time players. And right now with 0 linebackers on the board, unless you count Arvell Reese, who I think is going to be a jack down the line. As a linebacker, that's definitely going to be a position of need. And then last couple guys I just want to touch on. Bryce West, cornerback from Cleveland Glenville. Garrett Stover, cousin of Cade Stover from the Columbus area, will be on campus. Both of those Ohioans have an offer for 2024. And then Peyton Woodyard out of St. John Bosco is a big-time safety prospect. Ohio State, Alabama, Notre Dame are the major players there. So getting him on campus, as well as Georgia native and athlete KJ Bolden, I would say that pretty much wraps it up. But we are starting to get into 2025, and Ryan Montgomery, brother of Luke Montgomery, Winston Watkins, a Texas A&M commit who's on Flip Watch, Orlando Pace's son, Landon Pace. Those are 2025 guys, along with commit Jonte Gilbert, that are expected on campus. So I know I just rattled off a lot of names, but no joke. I mean, every single name on this list of 30 or 40 that we have is like a 4-star quality player or higher. So, a lot of people ask, why is Ohio State not having one of those late July barbecues? They felt with just 1 month between those barbecues and this game that out-of-state kids, big-time out-of-state kids like the ones we just mentioned, were just going to pick one or the other if they had to pay on their own dime from the 2024 class, 2025 class, and they felt that they would more likely want to come to a Notre Dame game under the lights in Ohio Stadium, Labor Day weekend. I mean, you can't ask for a better atmosphere than what we're going to see in the shoe.
Yeah, it should be a great atmosphere. You listen to guys talk about this team and what this team could be, and you listen to the offensive guys talk about the defense, and the defensive guys talk about the offense, and it's like, this might be a pretty good Ohio State team. And we've seen a lot of pretty good Ohio State teams. This year's Ohio State team just came out. They're number 2 in the AP poll, Notre Dame 5 in the AP poll, so a top 5 showdown under the lights to start the season. Lots of recruits there. We'll be there. Won't that be a fun change? We'll be there to cover it all, cover the recruits. Lots of pregame shows, postgame shows, all that great stuff, all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. And yes, it really is coming. It is coming on Wednesday. We are so truly, truly excited. We can't wait to show you the new digs. You can go there right now and check out the sort of, just sort of temporary home, and it's all free right now at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Wednesday, the full site will go live. Have all the great coverage you've come to expect from Tony Gerdeman and Kevin Noon and Mark Givler and Alex and Ross Fulton and all of our great team. Justin Whitlatch, our full team. Great stuff coming there. We are really, really, really excited. So make sure you check out BuckeyeHuddle.com this week. And yes, that Notre Dame game only 18 days away. It is getting real, real fast. So we are looking forward to it. Can't wait to share the excitement of this Ohio State football season with you all there. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We will talk to you tomorrow.